Discover the incredible spiritual side of cannabis. 10 life-changing benefits everyone misses. The words glowed like a neon sign in Ryan's mind, pulling him in. He stood in the center of his grandmother's overgrown garden, tangled weeds mocking the once vibrant patch of herbs and flowers she had meticulously cared for. 8 years, a lifetime, had passed since he last walked among blooming colors that brightened his childhood. Now, all he felt was the weight of ghosts creeping in from the shadows of his past as he knelt to dig. His hands entwined with the dirt, memories flooded back. His grandmother's laughter rang sweet as she taught him about nature's magic, the healing power of plants. Ryan, each flower has a story, and every herb is a treasure waiting to be uncovered, she would whisper, her eyes twinkling with warmth. He felt a swell of emotion in his chest, a longing for connection to her teachings and a shot of hope amidst the suffocating weeds. Then, he thought of cannabis. It wasn't just a plant. It was a potential remedy that could help him wrestle with the demons of PTSD, the nightmares that feasted on his strength. The idea of advocacy sparked something in him. He envisioned gatherings where he and others could share their stories of healing, just like his grandmother had. But first, he had to wade through the skepticism of his hometown. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Maria, a determined single mother struggling against the heartaches of her own, stood beside him. Together, they decided to host an event, an open gathering to share insights on the healing properties of cannabis. The plan unfolded like a fragile blossom. But here, in a town steeped in old prejudices, they faced a tide of disapproval. Whispers danced like fireflies around town, fears flaring up as leaders and friends questioned Ryan's intentions. Every corner echoed with murmurs of shame, doubts that threatened to smother his spirit. On a warm spring evening, with a gathering in the town square, Ryan strummed his nerves like guitar strings, ready to strum harmony amongst discord. As he took the mic, he felt the air tighten around him. Hearts were guarded, old wounds vulnerable to new ideas. But then, a group of veterans emerged from the crowd, eyes filled with unvoiced struggles and hollow smiles. They carried stories of battle and pain, shadows of the past etched across their faces. Ryan's heart raced. This was it, the moment of truth. As they shared their tales, a raw connection fused the air. Laughter bubbled, joined by tears, as realization washed over everyone. They were bound by a common yearning for understanding, healing, and acceptance. Yet, the tension loomed. Would they open their arms to something so different, so misunderstood? As voices clashed, the future hung hazy, uncertain. Could Ryan's single choice ignite change, challenge beliefs, and stitch together relationships frayed by time? Each moment pulsed with promise, yet silence echoed loudly. The answer lingered, hovering just out of reach, leaving him questioning if love and resilience could truly bridge their divides. The crowd shifted restlessly, the weight of silence pressing on Ryan's shoulders. He scanned the faces before him, searching for understanding. He noticed an older woman crossing her arms tightly, her gaze hardened against the unfamiliarity of his message. He steeled himself for the challenge ahead. "Thank you all for being here," he began, his voice quaking slightly, but with intent. "I know there are many opinions about cannabis, but tonight, let us explore the connection it has to healing, not just physical but spiritual too." He paused, letting the words settle. Some nodded hesitantly, while others remained skeptical. From the back, a veteran named Jake stepped forward, his weathered face lined with years of struggle. "I spent years trapped in my own mind," he said. "Cannabis helped me breathe again." Beyond the shadows, there was a power in his voice, a raw truth that struck Ryan like a lightning bolt. "Let us give it a chance, folks," Jake implored, looking around the crowd. "We're not here to change anyone's beliefs overnight. just to share what worked for us. Ryan's heart soared with support, the shadows in the crowd beginning to shift. Stories began to flow one after another. A nurse spoke of how she used cannabis to ease her chronic pain, while another woman shared how it quieted her anxiety, allowing her to reconnect with her children. The stories wove together like a tapestry, vibrant and colorful, stitched with empathy. Ryan felt his own past loosening its grip on him, the fresh air of acceptance filling what had been a suffocating void. Hope danced in the space, sparking conversations he dreamed of in that long-forgotten garden. But amid the warmth, an undercurrent of tension remained. There were still those who remained silent, arms crossed tightly, their skepticism needing a different kind of nudge. As the voices faded, Ryan decided it was time to confront the unease. "I know this is new for many of you," he said, meeting the wary gaze of the older woman. "But each of our stories matters. They matter because they uniquely shape our understanding of healing. Just like the herbs and flowers my grandmother loved, we each hold potential." She uncrossed her arms cautiously, the tension in her face softening, and in that moment, Ryan noticed a spark of curiosity glimmering in her eyes. The dialogue grew. Questions bloomed, weaving between fear and intrigue. "What about the laws?" One man blurted out. "What are we telling our kids?" Another mother interjected. Ryan welcomed the challenges. All valid concerns, he acknowledged. This isn't a free-for-all. It's about informed choices. Knowledge is our ally here. As the evening unfolded, a flower of understanding began to bloom amid doubt. The crowd, once fractured, felt closer. Faces shared emotions, some with tears in their eyes, others with smiles that replaced skepticism. Unity began to bridge the differences, each story like a tiny seed pushing through the soil. And then, right before the gathering started to dissolve into smaller groups, the older woman with crossed arms stepped forward. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "I'm afraid of what I don't know. But for the first time, I think I want to learn." The air crackled with renewed energy. Ryan's heart swelled with gratitude. This journey, this connection, was only just beginning. As he watched the group chatting animatedly amongst themselves, he felt a deep sense of purpose course through him. Maybe change was possible after all. But amidst these fragile new connections, a lingering question danced in his mind. Would they come together to challenge the old systems? With nightfall settling in, hesitating glances painted uncertainty in the air. Would the seeds they planted tonight take root? Or would weeds of doubt choke the possibility of growth? The answers waited just beyond the horizon, cloaked in the lingering haze of hope and hesitation. The air in the room buzzed with a newfound electricity as the crowd began to circulate, each person tentatively mingling. Ryan took a step back, allowing others to share their thoughts more freely. As he observed, he felt like a gardener watching the blooms of understanding begin to unfurl. Jake was now deep in conversation with a young man, gesturing animatedly as he recounted some of the strategies he had employed in his recovery. Ryan grinned to himself, feeling the warmth of camaraderie grow like a bright flame. Here were people fighting their own battles, coming together in shared vulnerability. The older woman who had stepped forward earlier approached Ryan, her expression softer now, tinged with a hint of determination. "What else can we learn?" she asked, her voice still lined with uncertainty, but now carrying a weight of curiosity. He looked into her eyes and recognized something familiar. "There is so much to explore," he said. "What if we create a space for continued learning? A place where we can ask questions and share what we find?" Her brow lifted slightly, and he could see her mind racing through countless possibilities. "Community, maybe?" she ventured, her voice steadying. "Exactly," Ryan exclaimed, a rush of excitement coursing through him. "A community where we can break the stigma and support one another. We could even invite experts to share their knowledge." As laughter and animated chatter filled the air, he felt a swell of hope. If this gathering could spark a community, they might just chip away at the old narratives surrounding cannabis and its potential. He began jotting down notes on a napkin he found, brainstorming ideas for workshops, support groups, and even social events. The discussions around him grew louder, filled with shared laughter and bouts of eagerness. An older gentleman shared a humorous tale of a misplaced plant that had turned out to be cannabis instead of the tomatoes he was hoping for. The room filled with laughter, and Ryan felt a sense of community bloom. But just as the joy reached its peak, the door creaked open, drawing everyone's attention. A young woman, breathless and wide-eyed, rushed in. "I heard you were talking about cannabis and healing," she called out, urgency coloring her words. "I need to talk to someone, especially about my mother. She's in pain and trapped in a cycle of medications." The laughter and chatter halted. The crowd shifted as empathy washed over the room. Ryan could see the flicker of hope in the young woman's eyes as she searched for support from strangers. "Let us help her," someone called out, and the crowd sprang into action. Offers of stories, resources, and even a few personal experiences bubbled up in a wave of support. Ryan was amazed at how easily the connection transformed into a web of reassurance. He stepped forward, joining the circle of people gathered around the young woman. "Let us talk about how cannabis can help manage pain," he said gently, aware that this was more than just a conversation. It was a lifeline. As they began discussing options, Ryan felt an unfamiliar warmth building inside. They were not just discussing cannabis. They were forging bonds that could stand against the barriers of fear and misunderstanding. But a familiar shadow flickered across his mind. How would they navigate the challenges ahead? Would those who had yet to accept cannabis truly stand by the community they were building? In that moment of connection, Ryan realized they stood on the edge of something larger than themselves, ready to leap into the unknown. Would their newfound unity withstand scrutiny? The night felt alive with promise, though uncertainty loomed like a specter. What would the next chapter of their journey reveal? The room was electric, but in a different way now. The young woman's plea hung in the air like a weight, a pressing reminder of the responsibility they were taking on. Ryan watched the faces around him light up with empathy and determination. Everyone hesitated for a moment, processing the urgency, but the collective resolve quickly became palpable again. "What's your mother's name?" someone asked gently, creating a warm space for the woman to share more. "Her name's Clara," the young woman replied, her voice trembling but resolute. "She's been suffering from chronic pain and they keep giving her medication, but all it does is make her feel worse. I think there's hope with cannabis, but no one is willing to listen." Ryan's heart ached for her. It was a familiar story. How many families were caught in the cycle of pharmaceuticals that only masked pain instead of healing? "If it's okay with you, I can share some resources that helped me," another voice chimed in, a woman with kind eyes who had been silently listening. "I found a great doctor who understands how cannabis can make a difference." The room filled with voices offering solutions, each person drawing from their own experiences to build a bridge for Clara. Ryan felt inspired. They weren't just a crowd, they were a tribe, all aligned in a mission to create healing. As the exchange deepened, the young woman's expression transformed from despair to cautious hope. She scribbled notes furiously, nodding along to the advice being shared. For the first time since she walked in, a small smile began to bloom on her lips. Ryan could feel the air change. The laughter had faded, but that didn't mean joy wasn't present. It transformed into something deeper, something that spoke of connection and solidarity. They weren't simply discussing cannabis. They were discussing life, healing, and the power found in unity. When she finally turned to Ryan, speaking in broken breaths, "Thank you for creating this space. For all of you. I never thought I'd find such kindred spirits in a room full of strangers." Her eyes glistened, reflecting raw emotion. A rush of warmth filled the space. "You're not a stranger anymore," he assured her, a smile tugging at his lips. "You're part of something bigger now." But even as hope swelled, questions lingered at the fringes of his mind. What hurdles did they face next? How would they tackle the preconceived ideas surrounding cannabis? There was still so much fear and resistance. An elderly man spoke up, breaking through Ryan's reverie. "I've lived most of my life under the shadow of stigma. But if my story can help just one person find relief, I'll do whatever it takes. We need to stand together." That statement sent ripples through the crowd. It wasn't just about cannabis anymore. It was about being seen, heard, and understood as the group began brainstorming ways to reach others and spread awareness. Ryan felt a flicker of something significant brewing. Ideas bounced back and forth like flames in a fireplace workshops, support groups, community outreach. It was exhilarating, yet terrifying. Could they really sustain this movement beyond tonight? Would their collective voices make enough noise to challenge the deep-seated beliefs held by many? Just when he thought they had reached a crescendo of inspiration, the door swung open again, this time revealing a man dressed in crisp business attire. Ryan's heart sank momentarily. Was he here to challenge their mission? What would this newcomer think of their gathering? With a confident stride, the man stepped in, his expression unreadable. "I've been hearing a lot about what's happening in this community," he began, pausing to scan the room filled with hopeful faces. "And I think we should talk about how to take this to the next level." Ryan's pulse quickened. What could this stranger want, and how would it change everything they built in just a few short hours? In that moment, Ryan understood. The journey ahead might be more complicated than he imagined, but he knew they were ready to face whatever was coming next. The man stepped further into the room, his polished shoes making faint clicks against the wooden floor. Ryan felt the weight of silence settle around them as everyone focused on this new figure. The energy shifted, a mix of excitement and trepidation vibrating in the air. "I'm Nathan," the man said, his voice smooth and professional. "I work in advocacy and policy reform for cannabis use. I've seen both the potential and the struggles people face when it comes to this plant. And what you've all started here is powerful." Ryan's heart raced. Was Nathan here to help or hinder them? The young woman's eyes flicked back and forth between Ryan and Nathan, her earlier smile fading into uncertainty. "Many communities remain unaware of the benefits," Nathan continued. "But we can change that. We can create campaigns that not only educate but empower people like your mother, Clara." "Wait, how can you help us?" someone asked, breaking the tension. "Are you here to support our initiative or to control it?" A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Doubts and worries surfaced, and Ryan felt the tension knot in his stomach. "I'm here to support," Nathan said, raising his hands as if to calm a restless crowd. "But that support has to be structured. We need a plan to push this beyond grassroots. I can help you navigate the system, find funding, set up workshops, whatever you need." The room was quiet again as the gravity of his words settled over them. Ryan felt torn. Nathan spoke of structure and plans, but the heart of their gathering was raw, unfiltered emotion. He remembered the urgency in the young woman's eyes, the way Clara's struggle resonated with so many others. But then a flicker of hope ignited within him. "What do you mean by finding funding?" he asked. "We don't have a lot of money to work with, but we have passion." "Passion counts, but money helps," Nathan replied. "Grants exist for educational efforts in cannabis awareness. We can tap into those resources. You've already made a powerful connection here tonight. Let us build on it." The group began to talk among themselves, hearts pounding with the prospect of taking their movement to a place that could reach more people. Ideas flowed in a cascade of voices, but questions lingered. Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that they were dancing on the edge of something bigger. He could see it in the flicker of the young woman's eyes as her earlier hope ignited again. And yet the skepticism in the room was palpable. "Are we being sold out?" A voice cut through the chatter. "Is this really about healing? Or is it just a business opportunity?" A silence fell again. Ryan looked around, gauging the trust in faces he had come to know so quickly. They had been so united just moments ago. How fragile was this connection now at the chance of becoming an organization? Nathan seemed to sense the shift. "It's about both," he said firmly. "Healing is a business, and if done right, it can benefit everyone. Can change lives and still be sustainable. But it will take all of you to make this happen." Ryan's breath caught in his chest. Could they truly empower those who needed it the most while stepping into a world tinged with bureaucracy? The challenge was daunting, but he understood now that they had already begun to break through the walls of ignorance. One voice at a time as discussions ramped up again. Ryan felt his resolve strengthen. Whatever comes next, he thought, we do it together. In that crowded room, surrounded by hope and uncertainty. He was ready to take the next step. But deep down, he wondered what it would mean to transform their solidarity into something tangible. Would they lose their intimate connection if they chose to move forward? Just then, Nathan leaned forward, clearing his throat, the room still buzzing with excitement and doubt. And there's more to consider. What if I told you that I know someone who has ties to the local government? They could open doors we haven't even dreamed of yet. Ryan's heart raced. They were on the brink of something monumental, but was everyone prepared for the journey ahead? The murmurs in the room faded as Nathan's words hung in the air, heavy with potential. Ryan could see not just excitement, but apprehension spread like wildfire among the group. This could be the chance they had been waiting for, yet insecurities danced in their eyes. Their tightly woven circle now felt stretched, fragile. Who is this person? What makes them important? The same skeptical voice broke through again, cutting through the buzz of excitement. Ryan recognized the speaker, an older gentleman named Marcus, whose skepticism had always mingled with his loyalty to their cause. I understand the hesitation, Nathan replied, his tone unflinching. Her name is Lisa. She has been a champion for medical cannabis legislation in our state. She could truly help elevate your message. With the right approach, we can make your vision a reality. Everyone leaned in, clearly processing this new information. Hope flickered in their eyes, but beneath it, Ryan saw the shadows of doubt. They worked so hard to create a grassroots campaign, rooted in personal stories and shared experiences. Could they really trust an outsider to guide them? What's the catch? Clara's voice broke through the tension, her brow furrowed. Where's the line between genuine help and, political manipulation? That's a valid question, Nathan replied. But the truth is, you need connections in this world if you want your voices to be heard. Lisa can provide those connections, but it's critical that you all remain at the helm. This movement is yours, after all. As he spoke, Ryan felt a swell of emotion grip him. This was bigger than just cannabis. It was about healing, community, and the shared hope they all carried. But there was a dangerous lure to power, and he feared what might happen if they let it overshadow their original intent. Look, Ryan interjected, hoping to regain focus. We've all been fighting for this because of personal stories. We can't risk losing that authenticity by getting swallowed up in the system. We owe it to each other and everyone who feels trapped in the shadows of a broken system. Silence fell again, a fragile truce hanging between them. He noticed the young woman's eyes lock onto his. There was a mix of fear and determination. The flicker of hope he had seen before now transformed into a deep fire of conviction. She stood up, voice steady. I'm willing to listen to Lisa, but we need to keep our hearts front and center. There's more at stake here than just legality, it's about humanity. Exactly, Ryan echoed, encouraged by her bravery. We can't allow ourselves to be pushed into something that compromises our mission. Nathan took a moment, observing the passionate faces before him. I appreciate your concerns. I wouldn't want to undermine your message. But think of this as a chance to amplify it. The need for change is now. People are ready to listen, and Lisa can help them hear you. Emotions surged again, a blend of hope, anxiety, and excitement. Conversations erupted as they each weighed the opportunity against what they could lose. Ryan could feel the energy shift. The once shaky foundation of their unity began to solidify. But in the midst of this possibility, a tiny voice nagged at him. What compromises would they face? Was the fight for healing worth the risk of becoming another political pawn? As the discussions wound down, Nathan stood up, looking at each member in the room. Let us set a date to meet with Lisa. We'll discuss how we can use this opportunity to further your cause while maintaining its integrity. Trust me. She wants to help all of you. Ryan nodded slowly, feeling both hope and dread intertwine within him. There was a leap of faith ahead, one that could lead to deeper connections or unravel everything they've worked for. As they prepared to leave, Clara turned to him, her expression serious. Whatever happens, we need to be ready to stand together. The challenge might just begin with this meeting. Yeah, Ryan replied, staring out the window, the setting sun casting a warm glow through the glass. Felt like a new beginning or the start of a storm. Are we really ready for the journey we might be about to take? Uncertainty loomed ahead, and Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing at a crossroads. Would they find a way to empower their community, or would they lose themselves in the process? The days dragged on, a tapestry woven with both anticipation and anxiety. Ryan found himself consumed by thoughts of the upcoming meeting with Lisa. Each conversation leading up to it felt like a thin thread, unspooling more doubts than before. They hung their hopes on connecting with this woman, whose influence could either bathe their mission in light or cast it into shadow. On meeting day, the group gathered at their usual spot, a local cafe with eclectic art and an atmosphere buzzing with creativity. The air was thick with the scent of fresh coffee and pastries, yet the tension among them was palpable. They each took their seats, glancing at one another, hoping to draw strength from shared glances. "All right, team," Clara said, her voice strong against the low hum of chatter around them. "We need to remember why we're here. No matter what happens, we always come back to our truth." Ryan nodded, feeling the knot in his stomach tighten. Just because she has the connections doesn't mean we need to stray from our message. We need to hold on to the core of what this movement is about, he added, trying to steady himself. The bell above the cafe door jingled, and Lisa stepped in, radiant and confident. Her presence was magnetic, drawing the attention of everyone nearby. She was dressed in a crisp blazer, striking a stark contrast to their casual garb, a visual reminder of the world they were trying to penetrate. "Hi everyone," Lisa beamed as she approached their table. Her smile was bright, but Ryan couldn't help but feel a touch of unease. She exuded the charisma of someone used to being in charge. "I'm so excited to meet with all of you. I've heard such wonderful things about your work." Her warm words cascaded over them, but Ryan felt a chill. The genuine kindness behind her eyes was overshadowed by the weight of the stakes involved. "Thank you for coming," Clara replied, her tone a mix of enthusiasm and caution. The rest of the group nodded quietly, their eyes darting between Lisa and each other as they settled into their seats. Lisa dove straight into talking about strategies and outreach, laying out her ideas with clarity and confidence that stirred enthusiasm within the room. "You have a rare opportunity," she said, leaning forward, her voice compelling. "Every movement needs a strong voice, and I believe we can amplify yours." Ryan's heart raced. She was pushing every button designed to stir hope. Was he falling under her spell? All of a sudden, he felt an overwhelming desire to voice his concerns. "Wait a minute," he interjected, determined to cut through the haze of positivity surrounding Lisa. "What happens when someone doesn't like what we stand for? When the people in power decide they want to silence us?" Lisa paused, her smile faltering momentarily. "Confrontation is a part of change. But I thrive in tough environments. Together we can tackle opposition head-on. There's power in numbers, and we can educate those who resist." The room vibrated with tension. Ryan could see Clara taking a deep breath, trying to mask her own doubts, while Marcus glanced at a coffee cup, lost in thought. "We're more than just numbers," Ryan pressed on, urgency surging within him. "These are real lives we're fighting for. Our stories matter." Lisa's gaze sharpened. "And they will matter even more when we use them as fuel for our campaign," she said. "You'll be the face of reform. Think of all the people who could benefit." Hope flickered again, yet Ryan could still see the fragility beneath their determination. Were they prepared for the price of that hope? Would they be risking their essence for a chance to forge connections? Clara broke in, her voice rising above the unease. "We need to trust our instincts. Let us be clear about where we stand without losing who we are." Ryan locked eyes with her, feeling the unspoken unity shared among friends battling for a common cause. Lisa remained, a question lingering. "So where do we go from here?" Ryan took a deep breath, sensing every heartbeat in the room as they faced a crucial moment of decision. It was clear this was just the beginning. A path filled with uncertainty lay ahead, and he couldn't help but wonder what price they might pay to gain their voices back. What would they choose? a chance for change forged in compromise or the risk of standing solitary in their convictions. The room echoed with tension as they looked toward each other, searching for answers amid the chaos ahead. The silence that followed Lisa's question hung heavily in the air. Ryan felt the weight of it pressing against his chest as he searched for the right words. What did they really want? Success without sacrifice? He glanced around the table, reading the faces of his friends Clara's determination, Marcus's thoughtful furrow, and Jenna's flicker of excitement. Each face told a story. The truth is, Ryan finally said, his voice steady but low, we're not just a project or a campaign. We're a community. We're fighting for something real, something that matters to us. It's personal. Lisa leaned back in her chair, a slight smile creeping across her face, as if enjoying a clever game. That's exactly what I'm saying. We can use that passion. You just need to trust the process. We'll make your community louder. She seemed to bask in their uncertainty, thriving in the role of the confident leader. But at what cost? Marcus interjected, breaking the spell. His tone was sharp, cutting through the rising anticipation. Do we mold ourselves to fit some vision you have? What happens to our integrity if we start bending our message? Lisa crossed her arms, a flicker of irritation flashing momentarily. You seem to think my intentions are unclear. This is all about making impactful connections. Isn't that what you want? To reach a wider audience? Jenna's voice, usually so vibrant, felt small as she spoke. But if we're not true to our stories, then what's the point? We might as well be just another corporate venture. Her eyes sparkled with unshed tears, a sign of her emotional stake in this fight. The atmosphere grew heavy with this realization. What was at risk was more than just their message. It was their very identity. They had fought too hard and too long to ever let that slip away. Lisa remained poised but could not hide the growing agitation at the table. I think I'm being misunderstood here. You need visibility to create change, and I can provide that. It's just logistics, not a loss of the soul of your mission. Ryan felt the fire in his gut as he stood up, the movement drawing everyone's eyes. But what if we don't want to change the core of who we are? What if our stories are enough? The challenge echoed off the cafe walls, striking a chord with his companions. Enough for who? Lisa's voice rose sharply. The people in power who ignore your stories? The system that thrives on silence? Your honesty might not be enough, it needs to hit the right ears. Those ears are what we need to be talking to then. Clara burst out, her voice raw with conviction. Not just any ears. Those of the people who will really listen, the ones who share our struggle. The conversation spun into a whirlpool of opinions, each voice overlapping, conflicting, seeking clarity in confusion. They found solidarity in their shared ideals. Yet uncertainty swirled around what this collaboration could mean. As their resolve grew stronger, Ryan felt the swell of energy, but it came wrapped in fear. A realization hit him like a cold splash of water. There was an impending choice looming closer. Would they walk this aligned path with Lisa, and what sacrifices might that entail? Or stay faithful to their original mission, even if it meant remaining unheard? As the discussion continued, Lisa's expression shifted subtly from irritation to calculation. The excitement of their energy was palpable, but he could see her begin contemplating her next move. Just then, the cafe door swung open, and a burst of laughter filled the space, punctuating their serious tones. Focus back, everyone, Lisa urged, giving a half-hearted smile. Let us not lose sight of the opportunity at hand. The world outside doesn't wait for anyone. Ryan stared at her, determination surging again. And neither should we embrace a future that doesn't reflect our truth. The group fell silent, their hearts beating as one, a mix of fear and courage swirling in the air. It was more than just a meeting, it was the beginning of a battle for their essence, their beliefs, their community. How much were they willing to stake in this newfound connection? And what lay at the other end of that decision, a world of acceptance, or one of abandonment? As they exchanged glance after glance, a singular question emerged through the chaos, the kind that altered destinies. What truth would they choose to carry into the world? With every breath they took, The path forward seemed dimly lit, but fraught with potential, waiting for them to make their mark. The moment hung in the air, charged with the weight of uncertainty. Each of them felt the gravity of their shared dilemma press down, and the question loomed larger than ever. Ryan could sense Clara's heart racing beside him, her fingers fidgeting against the table's edge, betraying her struggle to articulate what they were all feeling. Okay, let us say we go down this path with Lisa. Marcus sighed, breaking the silence, his voice threaded with concern. What if in trying to amplify our voices, we lose everything we've worked for? Our stories? Our authenticity? Jenna's face paled at the thought, and for a moment, Ryan could see the flicker of fear behind her eyes. I can't bear to think of my story being twisted or manufactured like some ad campaign. It's everything I am. The emotion in her voice choked the air, bringing a wave of solidarity that washed over the room. Then we have to make sure our identity stays intact, Clara declared, her gaze flaring with determination. We need to lay down the ground rules up front. If we're going to involve Lisa, it's got to be on our terms. Ryan nodded, catching the fire that Clara ignited. He stood straighter, facing Lisa with a resolve he hadn't expected to feel. You said you believe in impactful connections. Well, for us, that means being honest. We won't compromise our message. If it's about our community, we will guide this process, not the other way around. Lisa leaned forward, her palms flat on the table, her smile now more guarded. You're entitled to your conditions. But remember, I bring the connections that could launch you. There's a fine line here. Maybe that fine line is what we're fighting for, Ryan replied fiercely. The clarity between our souls and your strategy matters. With a slight nod, Lisa seemed to reconsider her approach. All right, let us find some common ground. Maybe it starts with sharing our stories, raw and real. Tell me what they mean to you. The demand for transparency hung heavy, luring each of them closer to the heart of the matter. Clara took a breath, her voice breaking through the tension. For me, it's the relief I've seen in my community. We face barriers every day, sometimes just getting our voices heard. Our stories celebrate resilience. They need to shine, not just echo louder. Jenna chimed in, her courage growing. Yes, we've turned pain into purpose. This isn't about fame. It's about belonging. With her words, a warm energy radiated through the group. Ryan felt a pulse of hope igniting within him. Exactly. It's about love, connection, and helping each other. If we're allowed to tell our truth effectively, then we will speak volumes even quietly. Lisa appeared momentarily taken aback. A flicker of something akin to respect crossed her face, quickly replaced by a calculating expression. All right, let us dig deeper. Show me these stories. I want to understand your community's heartbeat. As they began to share snippets of their journeys, the cafe around them faded away. Their narratives intertwined, creating an invisible thread binding them together. The lives lost, the struggles faced, the triumphs celebrated. Tears glided down Jenna's cheeks as she recounted moments of vulnerability turned strength, while Marcus added layers of histories wrapped in laughter and hope. Each shared story pulsated warmth into the room, and Ryan watched as Lisa leaned in, genuinely interested. This was the breakthrough they needed, an understanding growing from a shared place of vulnerability. But as the sunlight shifted outside, casting harsh shadows against their small table, a chilling thought crept into Ryan's mind. What if their stories were not enough to protect them? What if the price of visibility was losing themselves forever? With that unsettling thought, Ryan stole a glance at the group. There was power in their shared dreams, but the reality ahead was still veiled in uncertainty. Maybe, just maybe, they could navigate this path and still hold on to who they were. They paused, each heart bearing heavy questions. The warmth from their stories clashed with the chilling uncertainty of the future. Would their voices echo, or would they fade under the weight of circumstance? One truth hung in the air: their journey was just beginning, and how it unfolded would define them. What path would they choose, and what unexpected twists lay ahead? The weeks rolled on, their momentum steady like a river carving through stone. Ryan felt a transformative energy pulsating within the community as stories and connections blossomed. Each meeting, every shared word, chipped away at the old walls of misunderstanding, intertwining them in something beautiful and unforeseen. One hazy afternoon, the group gathered at the local park, a perfect backdrop for their blossoming unity. Sunlight filtered through the trees, casting dancing shadows on the soft grass. Ryan could see laughter spilling from faces that once shared fear and skepticism, now unwinding into acceptance and hope. It filled him with joy. The air seemed lighter, electric with possibility. Clara stood beside him, her eyes sparkling brightly as she strummed an old guitar. "What if we create a song?" she proposed, her voice giddy. "A way to tell our stories together. One that brings healing and connects to the deep roots of our community." "Let us do it," Jenna exclaimed, the idea igniting an infectious energy. Minutes later, they had formed a circle, sharing fragments of their lives, mixing in chord progressions, and weaving harmony as if it were an unbreakable thread. They drew on their individual battles, singing out their triumphs over adversity, the lyrics bursting with authenticity. Ryan took a moment to enjoy the sound, filled with esoteric healing. His heart swelled as he watched the crowd gather around, some tapping their feet, others swaying, allowing the music to wash over them. It was community in its purest form, a tapestry of voices entwined in melody. Then, as if heralding a shift, Nathan arrived, his confident presence disrupting the serene moment. Ryan felt the familiar knot tighten in his stomach. Here was the man who offered the golden opportunity for their movement, yet he also carried that weight of uncertainty. "Hey everyone," Nathan greeted. "I got big news." The chorus faded into cautious silence. "Lisa's been making waves with our proposal. There's a chance for us to present our work to local lawmakers, to share the gravity of these stories." A ripple of excitement surged through the group, but doubt lingered beneath the surface. Ryan exchanged glances with Clara and Jenna. "What if we share our song?" Clara's voice trembled with anticipation. "It's our collective voice. Proves we're not just advocating for change, we're living it." A wave of agreement washed over the community. Ryan felt a spark flicker to life again. They could walk that tightrope, combining their authentic stories with this new opportunity. The night of the presentation arrived, the atmosphere thick with tension and excitement as they filled the small town hall, a historic building steeped in echoes of the past. Each face bore a mixture of nerves and determination as they prepared to unveil what had been shaped from heartache and healing. Ryan clasped the mic, gripping it tightly, letting the rhythm of his heartbeat guide him. "Thank you for being here tonight," he began, his voice ringing with sincerity. "We're not just sharing statistics or policies. We're sharing our stories' lives intertwined by the healing potential of cannabis. This isn't just about the plant. It's about us." He felt Clara's reassuring presence beside him. As she strummed the first chords of their song, the room fell into a deep hush, anticipation threading through the crowd. Emily, a shy woman who once hid her struggles, stepped forward to sing the first verse, her voice rising like a phoenix, echoing between the walls of judgment and fear. With every note they sang, they laid bare their souls. They spoke of pain, triumph, and the healing found in vulnerability. As they reached the chorus, Ryan could see faces in the audience soften, expressions shifting from skepticism to hope and reflection. Something beautiful was happening. Walls were crumbling in the light of truth. With the last note hanging in the air, silence enveloped the hall. Then, like fireworks igniting the sky, applause erupted, shaking the foundations of their shared experience. People rose clapping, ferociously. Some wiped away tears, others stood frozen, absorbed by the moment. Among them, he noticed the older woman who had once crossed her arms tightly in disbelief. This time, she looked at Ryan, tears shimmering in her eyes, nodding as if finally seeing them not just as a group, but as a family. "Tonight, you all showcased what real healing means," a local leader called out, his voice full of warmth. "You've opened my eyes to what cannabis can offer. We need to explore this." Ryan's heart soared. The bridges they built were not just for perception. They were connections that would stand firm against doubt. He glanced at his friends, feeling the pulse of solidarity that now infused them all. As they stepped down from the stage, they were not just advocates, they were a powerful community anchored in love and understanding. With newfound conviction, their bond trembled with the potential to push past legislative barriers, to rewrite the narratives that trapped so many in the darkness. "Let us keep this momentum going," Ryan said as they gathered in a huddle afterward, their excitement bursting beneath the surface. "And let us continue to create spaces where stories can heal." In that moment, standing together under the warm glow of community acceptance, Ryan felt the ghosts of his past finally begin to fade. They turned the garden once overrun with doubt into a lush haven of hope and transformation. In the depth of their connection, he saw life blooming anew. Together, they were unstoppable. As the night drew to a close, he looked out at the crowd, knowing that this was only the beginning. Together, they could harness this energy, share their truth, and create ripples that would heal far beyond themselves. This was their call to action the moment they stepped into a future of possibilities. The journey ahead may be daunting, but they would face it as one, armed with hope, resilience, and the power of shared stories. Now, it's your turn. Support our journey by subscribing immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that can inspire and change lives. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure these messages reach those who need it most. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this transformative journey. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who could benefit from the power of community and healing. This is the moment to show your support and help spread the message.